Hi, I'm Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio. I received a request from a viewer to show you how I did the quilting path on the Morning Glory quilt. So I am up here in my dining room and I have the quilt on my table, and I'm going to show you the path that I took to quilt this quilt in a continuous manner so that I didn't have to break thread. This is how the quilt was laid out on the machine. This was the side edge. This is the one with the deeper curves. And this was the top, and that was the bottom of the quilt. So each row started with a hexagon. And I'm going to go ahead and start here and show you, I'll start here and show you how I did this row, and then I'll show you how I did the next row, because once you got the first full set of rings done and you get to the next row, you've got just partial rings to do. So I'll show you how I did that. So I started out with the hexagon, and I went by stitching in the ditch on the outside, and then I did the continuous curve from there and went all the way around this ring. And you'll notice the triangles with only 3 sides, once I did those were complete, but the rectangles, the bottom edges are not done, so I use those to get me back around. So I'm going to do the continuous curve around until I get here. Now for the first rows I want to get over here, so I have a ways that I need to backtrack. So I'm going to backtrack in the ditch, so stitch in the ditch to get to the next hexagon and get that complete. Now these 3 pieces are done, so I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to go this direction. And it really doesn't matter which direction you're going, the object is just to get all the way around the ring. So now I'm to where all of this is done, so I need to go this direction. So I'm going to go around and just get the bottoms of those, and then we're going to stitch in the ditch and go around to the next one. Now instead of ending up here, I'm ending over here, so let's do this direction. Just keep going until I get to where the quilting is completed, which is over here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that are done. So let's go back this direction, and now I'm done here, so I can stitch in the ditch, and then get to my next hexagon. Now when I start this row, once again I'm going to start here, and what I'm going to try and do is to end up here. So I am going to stitch here across, and then I'm winding up here, and no matter what I do, I'm going to wind up stitching in the ditch. So let's do this. That ring is complete. Now I'm stitching the ditch to get here, and on this one I want to end up over here because all of these pieces are completed. So I'm going to go across, stitch in the ditch, come across, stitch in the ditch, and go down, and now I'm here. So some of these areas I did not have to stitch in the ditch much, and others I had to stitch quite a bit. Like this one is going to be a further distance, so stitch, ditch, ditch, and now we're here. And I can end up over here, or I can end up over here, whichever, it's really not going to matter. But I don't want to end up here, so we're going to do that part next. And it just automatically makes me wind up here, so we're going to go and do this. And now this rectangle is complete. Triangle, rectangle, triangle, rectangle. And now I need to do the bottom section, so we're going to go around, and that completes this ring. And then I'm going to stitch in the ditch here and here, and then go to the next hexagon. So where you wind up depends on where how you quilt the hexagon. So you know, I could wind up here or up here. Either way, I could end up here on this one and complete it this direction. So if I do that, I want to end up here, so I'm going to quilt this, and then I'm going to have to stitch in the ditch like this and come here. And then do the continuous curve until I get to the point where I have all my quilting completed, which is here, and then go back around and then stitch in the ditch to get to the next hexagon. So a lot of it is just stopping to think, where do you want to end up? How much stitching in the ditch do you want to do? These were just short segments, so I didn't even have to use a ruler to get to stitch in the ditch here. I just guided the needle through, and it went well without having to use my ruler, and I was able to stay in the ditch, so it wasn't that hard. But that's one of those things that if you're not real experienced on stitching the ditch, you may want to go ahead and use your ruler to do that. But the way I got through this entire quilt without doing a lot of breaking thread was by stitching in the ditch to get to where I wanted to be for the next segment. So there's other ways this could have been done. It didn't have to be done horizontally. It could have been done vertically too. But this pattern is one that there's no direction to it, so it really wouldn't have mattered. You know, I could have just gone down and up and down and up on the space that I had available, on the throat space that I had available on my machine. But I just went across, and that made it easier. Another thing I tried was looking at the design as rows like this. I think it would have helped if I knew how this quilt was put together, but I just really did not know. This is the first time I've seen this pattern, and I have not seen any instructions on how to sew these blocks together. So I don't know how this pattern really went together. But if I looked at this, you know, I could have just done all of this continuous curve like this all the way across, and just ignore these hexagons and do those as a separate row. And I did try that once. I didn't think it saved me any time at all. And this wasn't a very time-consuming quilt. It got it done over a course of a couple of days, and that was just working a few hours at a time. I didn't work on it continuously. So and then I come back and do the bottoms, and then I could go on right into doing my hexagon and then stitching in the ditch to get to this part. And then the thing was remembering to come back and getting some of these parts, and then there was still just a lot of stitch in the ditch. So it worked real well for this part, but this segment here was a little more difficult to do. So I decided to just go back and look at it as rings, the rings as the blocks, and not try to break it up into segments like that. So that helped me get through it pretty quickly. The only thing that slowed me down was using the ruler to do the hexagons, and then the rest was just freehand with the machine. So I hope this gave you some ideas on what you can do if you have a quilt like this or something similar, like maybe a grandmother's flower garden. I have done a couple of those in my career, and I've done different things on those, but I don't have one of those to work on right now. But I hope you found this informative, and I hope to see you again in the next video.
Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my newest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.